Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Please say the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Can I have roll call and quorum check, please, Mrs. Miano?
Yes. Mr. Leary.
Present.
Mrs. Karopolsky.
Here.
Mrs. Wilson.
Here.
Mrs. Dubard.
Present.
Mr. Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you.
I need an approval of the board meeting minutes from November 10th, 2020, please.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mrs. Dubard. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Board trustee reports. Can we start, please, with Mrs. Dubard? Do you have anything?
I have nothing. I just have a personal note that my son was offered a really good scholarship to go to Rider University and he signed with him. So that's all I have.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell your son that we're very proud of him and we know he'll do great things.
I really hope we had a season coming forward though, but that's still up in the air. So yeah, but thank you.
Keep thinking positive thoughts. Mrs. Karopolsky?
I have nothing other than the fact that we had an audit meeting directly before this one to review the 2019 recommendations and to start looking at the 2020 recommendations as well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Schaefer?
I too also was a part of the audit committee tonight at 6 o'clock. I also in November did a Zoom meeting with the legislative committee. And then I have been this month logged into the conference, the New York City conference for the school board. And I got through like 8 sessions already. Noticing some pros and cons because of this. I mean, obviously the pros is like you're in the comfort of your own home. I've been doing this around my own schedule. So it's good that way. You get to see a lot more. You could take in a lot more classes than what time allows when you're actually at the conference. And but the cons are, it's very hard. I mean, I know what's going on in the world, but it's hard to be, involved in a discussion because you watch the presenter. He's only like that big, while the whole rest of it is all like literature or whatever else you got to present. And you lose out that human connection and sitting there watching the presenter. And also, afterwards, it's like, hanging out with, your own school board members, hanging out, taking in the city or dinner, things like that, and discuss about the things you may or may not have been a part of, learn from each other. That's pretty much the con as well. So I just want to share that little tidbit. And that's
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Mr. Leary, do you have anything for us?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. Is Mr. Warburton on?
Yes.
Derek, do you have anything for us?
You need to unmute, Derek.
Okay.
There we
Do you
go.
have anything for us to report? Hi.
Well, I just when I was substituting at Amherst School, I noticed that the teachers doing remote were talking to the it's just hard for a teacher to talk to the classroom and to the remote people at the same time. And even with the mask on, I was hard time hearing what he was saying because and it seemed like his tension was either on the remote and probably not on the classroom. There was only about maybe 3 or 4 people in the class, but and the class is pretty quiet, not too many questions, but I just find it hard for the teacher to talk to like two different things at the classroom and in the remote at the same time. But then I'm wondering if some of the students, are not attentive too much on the remote. I don't know if they grade. You can't grade the same as the teachers in the classroom as a remote. I don't know if the grading has been changed, but I know a lot of students didn't get a good grade the first report
Derek,
card.
I have to kind of cut you off here because
Okay.
this is the part, and I don't mean to do this, but this is the part of our board meeting where we talk about our board reports, if we've done anything related to the school. And we have to save your discussion for later on in our meeting. I'm sorry, but is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so moving forward, Tom, is Mr.
Rashka, yes?
Yeah, is he with us?
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Rishka. Do you have anything to give for a board report, please?
No, I have nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's move on.
I'm going to admit.
Okay, we're gonna do administrative updates.
Mhm.
So we will start with, could we start with Mrs. Mitchell, please?
They're coming on now.
I flip this thing up.
Mrs. Mitchell, are you ready to begin?
You mute.
You need to unmute. There we go.
For the principal's report or the SCEP plan?
Principal's report, please.
Okay.
Both?
So we have been working remotely for the past few weeks. And I have to say that our teachers have been working very hard to maintain the engagement with our students. We have been focusing on making sure all of our students are attending their live meets as well as completing their asynchronous learning. And we have seen great success. There are many cohorts of students where we have 100% attendance, regardless if they were fully remote all along or in the hybrid learning. So we're seeing much engagement from our students, which is definitely a positive for our learning. So I can't say that we've really missed a beat from being in the school building. Of course, we would prefer to be there, but instruction is still happening. And that really is to be celebrated. We are continuing to examine our data to move forward with our instruction and our small group instruction. With regards to student with the whole child, we are working with our PTA and our Project Positive to put together a winter, I think we came up with the name of Warrior Winter Wonderland drive-through event so that our families can enjoy a little bit of holiday fun while also celebrating the hard work that our students have been doing of living the Warrior Way. And that is tentatively scheduled for the 22nd of December, with details to follow with that. But we're very excited to be able to offer some excitement for our families. We also are in our 12 days before holiday break, which brings some fun for our students as well as our staff. And our staff has, one of our staff members, Mrs. Miller, came up with an idea to share a read aloud for our students on a nightly basis. So we are pushing out a story for all of our families that's read by a different staff member. There's actually 2 stories a night because we had so much interest in staff members who wanted to share. So that is very exciting and seems to be enjoyed by our student population. And as far as our 21st century skills, we continue to focus on refining the platforms and the applications that we are working on. Instead of introducing some that are new, I do have to share that this week I had a chance to observed Mrs. Lewis using the Smart Suite software, which allows her to individually interact with students as they work on a task. So she can provide feedback immediately as they are working remotely. So she has access to all of their work at one time. And that's something that our whole school has access to. And it's really seemed like a great tool to be able to maintain that feedback in both verbal form as well as written form as the students were working. So I really think that that's a benefit for us. So that's really where we are at Union East.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mitchell. Very interesting stuff going on there.
It
I
really is.
appreciate it. It really is. Next up, anybody have any questions for Mrs. Mitchell? Okay, next up, Mr. Cullinan, please, for a principal's report.
Good evening, everyone. At the middle school, we continue obviously in the pivot to full remote learning. And our teachers, I have to commend them on doing a fantastic job of adjusting and trying to be as flexible as possible. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into trying to be effective in the remote learning setting, but they have gone above and beyond trying to make it work. We are posting things constantly. We continue to do our meetings with our students and our families. We post announcements. We continue to make sure that all of our students are being contacted, because attendance is a big issue. We want to make sure everyone's attending and they have to be there as much as possible. And if they're not, our secretaries have done a great job of making sure to stay in touch with the families and find out why and make sure that everyone knows their schedule. Our counselors have done the same thing, making sure that our instruction is being pushed out to everyone that needs it and that they are available, as well as our social worker, to meet with kids and they continue to see them and make sure they're getting the services, just have somebody to talk to, because a lot of it is new for everybody. And so they need somebody to talk to, just to kind of bounce some ideas off and just to kind of get some type of normalcy from the regular school day by being able to meet with their counselor and have a small discussion. So that's been great to see that. Our teachers continue to collaborate weekly on their reports, making sure that we are utilizing all the data we have right now. We're continuing to assess our STAR testing right now to see where we are going and to make sure that that is driving our instruction. Our Project Positive has done a fantastic job of staying engaged throughout this whole remote learning. We have just last week, we're delivering signs to our extra special remote learners, and we're putting them on the front lawns and taking pictures with the kids and thanking them for their dedication while they're still remote. And we're hoping that that continues throughout as long as we are remote. And I think a lot of the parents are pleased to see us coming out there and getting signs and recognizing their kids, similar to what we did for teachers last year. So it's nice to see the students getting some recognition for their hard work during remote learning. So we're continuing to push ahead and do our best we can in this format, and look forward to hopefully returning to school sooner than later.
Thank you, Mr. Cullinan. I know you're all doing a great job. I appreciate it. Now, if we could we have you and Mrs. Mitchell do your presentation for us, please? Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mrs. Mitchell will begin with the portion of the presentation from Union East.
Mrs. Mitchell, don't forget to unmute.
There we go. Okay, so Mr. Cullinan and I are here tonight to present on our SCEP plan, which has been a work in progress that both the middle school and Union East have been working on for most of this school year. So the SCEP plan stands for the School Comprehensive Education Plan. And this is something that is required as we are a targeted school in need of improvement, both at the middle school and the high school. And the process for this plan is really focused on school improvement. So it takes into account a lot of factors, and it has been quite the process of gathering data and then developing the plan. So we are going to share with you tonight the plan for Union East, as well as Mr. Cullen is going to share the plan for the middle school. Just a little overview about the process. So it began in the late summer, early fall with surveys and planning. We had representatives from EdLight Consulting come in to run some focus groups with teachers, parents, and students, as well as data collections through observation throughout our school building. Once the data was collected, there was a process to review that data, and that really was a team process in which we identified some root causes as to why we were identified and where our places of weakness were, and then to establish some priorities and to set some goals. And from there, the team worked to create an action plan of steps that are specific and with a timeline so that we can be held accountable to be assured that we are showing the growth that is necessary. So once that process had taken place, our group met in early November, both the middle school and Union East, over a series of 4 half-day sessions to examine the data and to work to really pinpoint what we needed to do to show improvement. And it really was a team effort. From there, the plan was finalized and sent to the buildings, and both of us rolled it out to our entire staff for feedback again, to see if there were places that we had overlooked, if there was something that we needed to be included, or if there were things that we just hadn't noticed the first time through. After that, we are here tonight to share this process with you, and then the plan will be adopted by you, hopefully by the end of the month. That's our plan. So at Union East, our team members included a group of teachers. We did have a parent representative as well as myself. And you will notice that we selected teachers from across our school building. So we had some teaching from AIS, some grade level teachers, special area teachers, our school social worker, as well as our building leaders in both ELA and math. It was important that those voices were at the table. So with the process, we established 5 goals. There was a goal based around ELA student growth, a goal around math student growth, around parents and families, administrative walkthroughs, and attendance. And those were our 5 goals in our 5 areas that we focused on. For goals 1, 2, 3, and 5, the group of teachers that you saw on the previous screen split up and focused. There were 2 staff members on each goal, and they really did the bulk of the work. So I'm presenting the information, but they really did the bulk of that work to pick it through, to think about what really made the most sense for our building, and where our action steps were best suited, where were our efforts best suited. So I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about each goal. Before I do that, talking about goal number 1 and goal number 2, they talk about student growth in ELA and math. And in order to talk about that, we have to talk about what our student growth percentile is, because this is something that these goals are based around. And you might see it referred to as SGP. So that compares a student's growth to his or her academic peers nationwide. So, and how do they define academic peers? Are students in the same grade with a similar score on a STAR assessment at the beginning of a time period. So they take all of the students who scored at the same place and they become the academic peers. And then we're looking for the growth of that group of students compared to one another. So the student growth percentile is reported on a 1 to 99 scale. You really want your growth to be at the 99 end. That means that you are growing at a higher rate than the other students in that academic peer group. So that student growth percentile really is more of an indicator if students are growing at a similar or greater rate than their peers. So it doesn't necessarily have to do with achievement, that they have the highest score like we would typically feel on a test, that 100 is the highest score. We're looking at their growth compared to the growth of their peers across the nation. And the reason that that's important is because our goals are based on that SGP. So for ELA, examining our data, and we did have to look at data from the 2018-19 school year, as well as last year, because we did not administer the STAR all 3 times last year due to being remote for the end of the school year. So we used the data from both the 2018-19 and the 2019-20 school year. And our baseline is that 52% of our students reached a student growth percentile of 50. Our goal by the end of this school year is that 65% of our students will reach that SGP of 50 or greater on that STAR reading assessment. So we're looking for a 13% increase in the number of students that are growing at a faster rate than their peers. And how are we going to do that? First, we're going to implement a consistent Tier 1 ELA curriculum with units that are aligned to pacing guides. One of the things that we had talked about with this in this regard is that all of our students are getting a similar experience and instruction is consistent across the grade level, so that we can assure that all 3rd graders leave 3rd grade with the same instruction on the same topics. In addition, we typically administered the STAR reading assessment 3 times in the school year. We gave it in the fall, in the winter in January, and then in the spring in May. And this year, we will be giving it every 10 weeks, which will work out to being 5 times throughout the school year. It will give us more data on our students, and we'll be able to monitor their growth more regularly. And following the administration of these assessments, we will be holding regular grade level data meetings to examine the data for what does this mean for instruction. For example, we rolled out our first 2 steps in the data process in late October, where we looked at the standards that we were teaching and how our students performed before instruction, so we can look at their growth, so we can see the impact of the instruction that we had on those standards throughout the school year. And we will continually look at that at each time. So we did that at the end of October. We actually will be doing it again tomorrow with our next set of data for the 2nd trimester. Not only will those instructional plans outline implications for a whole group, but they will also indicate for our strategy or our small groups and individual student instruction. And what is most important to consider here is that small group instruction and our strategy groups will be fluid, so we can respond to the needs of our students as topics change as well as students grow. Our second goal is dealing with math, and it looks very similar to our ELA goal. The only difference really is our percentage points. So we had 51% of our students in our baseline scoring at that SGP of 50, and we are looking for a similar rate of 65% of our students to grow, so a 14% increase. When we're talking about how are we going to get there, we are going to focus some professional development sessions on daily number routines, as well as some problem-solving structures called three reads and the Q strategy in January and February. And this will be professional development for our entire staff. What that will allow is that we will have consistent vocabulary from grade level to grade level. So when a kiddo moves from 1st grade to 2nd grade and their teacher is talking about how to attack a word problem, they have the same vocabulary that they were familiar with from 1st grade. And that really will be a gain for our students as they go through the grade levels. As with ELA, the STAR math assessment will be administered every 10 weeks, followed by the data protocol. We also will begin more direct small group math instruction using that data, and we will focus our classroom walkthroughs on the small group math instruction, as well as the use of our daily number routines and the problem-solving structure. So this is very similar to ELA and how we're hoping that streamlining our work, putting some structure to it, will really help us to show improvement. Our third goal dealt with parents and families. And the committee that worked on this goal focused on 3 questions that came from a survey of our families. And those questions were: staff members seek my input on how best to meet my child's needs. Teachers regularly inform me about how my child is doing academically. And teachers provide useful information about how to help my child do well in school. And so those were the questions that they focused their work on, and our action steps are directly related. So you can see the baseline results from the September survey, and our goal by the end of the year is that 75% of our families will agree to say that, yes, this is happening for my family by the end of the school year. How are we going to do that? So we have implemented a school-wide class dojo. If you can think of it's kind of like a Facebook for schools. So what it allows is all of our teachers have their own group with all their students, and their parents are connected, and then they are all connected to our school-wide class dojo. So messages can be sent out by the teacher individually to a parent or to the whole class as one time. And we as a school can post daily and weekly messages about things that are happening at school. To date, I sent one out this afternoon. We had 696 parents connected. We have about 890 currently enrolled in that general area, depending on the day. So we are really working to make sure everyone's connected there, but it really allows us a platform that is consistent. Every classroom is using it. Parents can put multiple children on there. It comes right to their phone as a notification on an app. So it really is a nice tool. We are going to continue to provide quarterly technology trainings for parents on our school platforms, including Seesaw, Google Classroom, and Class Dojo. We've found that this is feedback from parents that they want to help their children, and they just don't know how, that these are new platforms that they've never used before. And so we offered a technology training at the beginning of November, and we will be offering another one 2 other times during our school year to continue that support for our parents. We will be assembling a virtual curriculum night to include grade level curriculum information, along with resources and tips for parents. Some of the feedback from parents was that they want to be able to help their child, but they don't know what an end of the year 3rd grader should be able to do, or what the resources they can use to best support their 3rd grader. So this will be one of the ways that we can provide that information for them. And it will be because it will be virtual, it can live on our website so that a parent or a family member can access it at any time that they would like to access that information or would like to kind of get a tip. It will all be there and living on our website. Our monthly school newsletter that goes out on a monthly basis with school news will also begin including information on what students will be learning that month in each grade level. So it will outline what topics they're going to be covering to, again, assist our parents in supporting their children at home so they know what we are doing in school. We will be holding monthly warrior chats with parents to gather feedback and input about their child's education and school experiences. The topics of the meeting really based on parent needs and feedback. We have held 2 of these already, one in October and one in November, in which we've had a small group of parents attend, but it really has provided us an opportunity to be able to get feedback from our parents on what's going well for them, where their struggles lie. And many of the things that we've put in place with this action step are in response to what they've shared and what was shared on the survey. And finally, we have always given a report card at the end of the trimester, but we have decided that we will be implementing a progress report at the halfway mark of each trimester, so that 13 weeks, 12 to 13 weeks, the length of a trimester is a long time. This will give parents midway feedback on how their child is doing in order to keep them abreast of their child's progress. Goal number 4 deals with administrative walkthroughs. We didn't have any baseline data on this as we had never given a survey regarding our walkthroughs before. But our goal here is that school leaders will visit each teacher and provide them with actionable feedback at least 8 times. And 8 times may not seem like a lot, but that's 8 times beginning in January, which is when this plan officially would go into place. And by June, we are going to be looking for 90% of our teachers to agree that their principal or administrator provides meaningful feedback, as well as that they observe their instructional practices. And this goal is directly aligned to the work of our DSEP, to the district plan. It really is completely mirrored that. So walkthroughs will be conducted for each teacher 2 to 4 times a month, beginning in January. Monthly surveys will be sent out to elicit that feedback, which we have already started doing, as well as the walkthroughs have already begun, both in person and virtually. And we hold monthly meetings between the principal, superintendent, and district staff to review this walkthrough data, as well as to prioritize our goals as a building. It really helps to shape our professional development needs. And our last goal deals with attendance. Our chronic absenteeism rate for the 2018-19 school year was 19%. And what we are hoping is that at the end of this school year, we will see an absenteeism rate of 12%. And I have to say, as we rolled this out to our staff, this was the goal that really caught most people's interest, that they really were intrigued by this group's plan. And Mr. Blunt and Ms. Lavati really worked on this most specifically, developing a 3-tiered plan to address our students who have been chronically absent. So there's a tier 3, our students that have been chronically absent the most. And we will be establishing an attendance committee this month that will meet on a regular basis to review our students' attendance, and will give a call home on a weekly basis. And one of our goals is that our attendance committee in this case can speak on a personal level to each family to share things that are happening in the classroom to help build that connection between home and school, so they feel schools where they need to be, and that we will do whatever we can to assist them. Tier 2 is for students that have been absent from 10 to 19 days. Again, not COVID-19 related. So this is other absences than related to COVID. And in this case, our classroom teachers will touch base with parents using phone, email, or our class dojo. And our tier 1 is really our biggest push is for our students that are absent the least, or 10 days or less. Again, not COVID related. We will have posters hung throughout our building emphasizing good attendance, morning announcements that included on our morning announcements is a reminder about attendance. It's included in our monthly newsletter. The Class Dojo program offers a way to reward students with points, so it incentivizes it, so we can use that for being on time and ready, as well as incentives for students who have not been absent, been absent 1 day or less for a month, and that will begin in February to celebrate our students for their January attendance. And this is going to happen whether we are remote or in person. We are still monitoring our attendance regardless. So as I had shared, that part of the process was to roll these goals out to our staff members and elicit their feedback. And I wanted to share with you some of the quotes that our building had shared as far as what they thought about the plan. And I think the last one that I made in the biggest font is really at the essence of all of it. All the plan and everything that we put in place builds on what we've already done and what we are already doing. There's not much here that is starting from scratch. Class Dojo is really the only thing that we had not used before school-wide. Many classrooms had already been using it, but everything else builds on things that we've already put in place, putting some structure to them and improving what we have already been doing instead of starting from scratch. And I think that really is an important point to consider when we're looking at an action plan to really make some impact and improve our school overall. So in review, here's just an overview of the 5 goals that we have dealing with our ELA student growth, our math student growth, our parents and families and their feedback on our survey, our administrative walkthroughs, and our attendance. Are there any questions?
That's a lot of work you put into that, Mrs. Mitchell, you and everybody.
Yep,
It's
our team worked
wonderful.
very hard.
Yeah, I can see that. And I really enjoy this presentation. Will you be able to, at a later date, after you have data down the road, come
Provide
back
an
and
up-
present to us?
Mhm.
Yeah,
We will be providing a monthly update as part of that administrative group. So we would be happy to share like a midway point in like February or March, and then again at the end of the year. That's
I
part of
love-
the process to keep ourselves accountable.
right. I love that. And I love the whole concept about it, you know, that it touches the 5 goals, the ELA, the math, the parents and the families, the walkthrough, the whole concept, and the fact that it gets to the kids that are chronically absent. Like,
Mhm.
that's huge. And a lot of work went into that. I think it's a fantastic presentation. Does anybody have anything they want to ask or any comments they want to make? No? Okay, do we?
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Cullinan. He's
Thank
gonna
you, I
talk about the
appreciate
middle
that.
school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Sure.
Okay, so how does this look at the middle school? You're going to see some things that are very similar to what Mrs. Mitchell said about Union East, but also we're going to be very unique here as well at the middle school. So school improvement. The big key here is that we are going from our DSEP plan, and we're taking bits and pieces from our DSEP plan, and we're going to incorporate it and make it our own in our SEP plan, which is just our school only. So we're going to use that. And one of the big components that we have to try to make sure we get from day one, we've gotten excellent input, is from our faculty. We need faculty buy-in, because basically what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with both academic and behavioral improvements. And the key from the beginning of this is a proactive approach. Here you see our committee that we put together, the administrative team followed by a couple parents, one of our school counselors, and then a group of teachers. And every one of them have done an exceptional job of sharing their opinions, having their voice heard, and really putting a lot of solid input into putting this plan together. And I can honestly say that we own our plan as a team. And we met different times. Besides the 4 days, we met with our outside consultant group, and we really had some good conversations. And I thought that we've done a really good job putting together a very nice plan. Goal number 1 is an ELA goal, and we try to address all students in our ELA goal. And similar to what Union East did, we use the in-house assessment, our STAR test, to kind of base what our student growth percentile will look like. So we use 50%. So 50 is our student growth, as our SGP. And just to give you a little background on that, nationwide standard is 40. And we as a district have put ours up at 50 to kind of put a little more rigor towards our instruction and what we are expecting of our kids. So I think that's a good baseline of what we've done as a district to look for a little bit more out of our students and set those goals higher. You see here our baseline 18-19, that 48% of the students reached an SGP of 50. And our aim is by the end of the 2021 school year that 61% of our students will reach the SGP of 50. In order to do this, our action plan looks like this. A big piece of this is collaboration. And that we're going to need to collaborate and work hard as an administrative team with our amazing faculty to make sure we get this done. And this plan is anchored completely in data. There's different sets of data that we're going to use to make sure all of our information is coming out. It's strong, solid information that we can depend on, that we know is true, and that we can utilize to make sure that we are getting the best out of what we are doing. Part of this action plan also includes timely feedback from our administration to teachers, and we are ready to assess the results and implement everything we use in our data protocol to make sure we are getting the most out of it. Our goal number 2 is based on math. And our math is looking at all of our students. And we look back at the 18-19 school year, and 31% of our students reached an SGP of 50. Our aim is by the end of 2021 school year, 45% of our students will reach a 50 on the STAR Math Growth Report. In order to do so, we are going to take an approach similar to what our ELA action plan is. And it's anchored in accountability. And with our administrative learning walks, our teacher administering our in-house data assessments, and using data to kind of drive our instruction along with our data protocol will enable this to be a reality. And an important piece that we make sure we're not going to forget is we're going to celebrate and recognize those students that have shown growth. And we're going to do that in a couple different platforms. We're going to utilize Project Positive to just continue to do our signs that we have pushed out. We're going to use our online platforms, and we're also going to incorporate our newsletter, and we are getting a running start on Dojo, which is relatively new in the middle school and something that we are just putting together now. We are confident when we push it out, it will be very productive like it has been at Union East. Our third goal is related to our teachers. And we looked at our teachers, and the survey was given, and the teachers were asked about the behavioral expectations in the building. And so we want to make sure we utilize our teacher feedback. So when we looked at this question, we saw that in 2020, 38%, a little over 38%, agreed or strongly agreed that the students meet behavioral expectations. Obviously, that's a very low percentage that we want to improve on. So what we did is we looked at our 2021 targeted goal, and we decided that it would be very possible for us to improve the student behavioral expectation to increase agree or strongly agree responses to 80%. And we feel that we can definitely get this goal if we work hard and utilize this action plan that we put together. We have 4 actionable steps that our committee sees fit in order to make this a reality. First off, we want to increase our staff presence throughout the day. There's multiple spots throughout the building that we want to make sure our staff is present to monitor behavior and make sure that our students are doing what they need to be doing and directed the ways that they need to make sure that they are doing the things properly. Secondly, student services, formerly known as our counseling center, are going to support all of our social and emotional needs of our students. Project Positive has continued to be a big piece of our behavioral growth, and we will continue to recognize them through our announcements, different displays, and making sure that we get out there and show them that what they are doing and their behavior is definitely recognized and that we appreciate. And lastly, and a huge piece of what we're trying to do here in the middle school is communicate. And communicate student behavior, meaning that we communicate with all of our stakeholders what our expectations are and what we expect that our students to behave in a certain way at all times. If we set this expectation, we continue to communicate it, we'll know that our teachers will support and our families and students will know exactly what we expect. And together, I think it will become more of a reality and able to improve it. Our fourth goal is related to our parent survey. We looked at our parents and we asked a survey in 2020, and we said, staff members seek my input on how best to meet the needs of my child. And roughly 42% agreed or strongly agreed. Now, when I looked at this and as a team, we saw this and we're like, that number needs to definitely improve. And that goes back to our communication piece. So we thought it was very realistic to improve our parent interaction and communication between the school district and the community to have an increase of 60% that agree or strongly agree with this statement. Now, our team did an excellent job when they got together to think of the best ways in order to achieve this goal. And so we started off by, we said, we're going to do 5 surveys. And we want to talk, and we want a piece of, I know people look at the surveys and they sometimes get like, oh, here we go. I don't feel like doing this survey. I don't want to fill this out. But we feel it's very important that your voices are heard, right? And we want the families to have a voice and be able to come to us and talk to us. And besides the open lines of communication we have at the middle school, we're also going to push out these surveys to make sure that they're being able to speak exactly how they like to and to tell us exactly what they want so we know what we need to improve on. We also want to create and implement school committee, all right? And we want to make sure that we're responsible for a variety of activities. And a lot of these, we've had to incorporate when we were thinking about this, different ways that we can do it virtually as well as in person. And some of those you can see there, we're going to have virtual family bingo, some trivia, bowling nights, and we're hoping that we're able to do these events live in person at some point, but we also know that we are going to prepare these to be able to do them virtually as well. Because even though we might be remote right now, we still want to make sure we're accessible to our families and students and keep those lines of communication open and constant. And lastly, and we're very proud of this last bullet because what it does is it provides professional development to give better communication, to build and foster these relationships with the families and communities. It's extremely important for a trust to be built between our building and our staff with our families and our community. And we feel as though if we can do this and continue to build on it, it'll only make things run better in the middle school. Our 5th goal, we went back to our teachers survey. And it's very important to look at this from an instructional standpoint and say that my principal and administrator provides meaningful feedback about what I'm doing in my classroom. And we want to focus on the academic support that we can provide for our teachers. Our baseline was set in 2020 with 48% of our teachers agreeing with that statement, that the instructional feedback was meaningful. And we figured that a good goal for us by the end of the 2021 school year would be for 70% of our teachers agreeing that the principal and administrator provides meaningful feedback. And that's our aim for the end of this school year. And I really think that's very obtainable because it's important when we're going in and out of classrooms, whether that's in person or more recently virtual, that we are watching what's going on and we are celebrating with our teachers the hard work that they're doing and the hard work that the students are putting in to try to get the best they can out of what we are providing. In order to get this goal and make sure that we can accomplish it, we put together this action plan. And we developed and implemented this action plan with a learning walk schedule anchored in our 4 cornerstones and 5 episodes that's been adopted district-wide. And we want to make sure that we do this and it's a regular schedule that our teachers, first and foremost, can depend on so that we are giving them the regular feedback that's consistent so that they can utilize that in implementing their instruction and pushing their lessons out and putting it together. Secondly, we want to look at a monthly teacher survey that will provide us feedback and enable us to then be able to analyze and share with our staff what we found in these surveys. Communication with central office has been a very important piece from the beginning for us to make sure that we are communicating what is taking place in the middle school and looking for different trends that we can receive assistance from central office with to provide opportunities for our teachers to improve. And lastly, we want to provide professional development. Administration will provide trainings for staff based on the trends that we notice when we're doing our learning walks. And they want to make sure that the feedback is given and it's regular feedback and it's meaningful. And it's focused on the trends that we are seeing during the walks and they support the teachers, right? And that's a big key to make sure the teachers are supported and they feel that they are able to push out that high quality instruction. You can see here in short our 5 goals from where we were in 2018 and 19 to where we plan to be when our goals are accomplished by June of 2021. By no means is this process stagnant, right? We have monthly data meetings with the principals of both the high school and Union East. And I have to say that both administrative teams at the high school and the Union East have been instrumental in helping us to put our plan together and assist us in a wide variety of what we've done. Mrs. Mitchell has been great, helping us and assisting us in a lot of things we've done, from data with the STAR and showing us how different things work. And it's really been great that we've been able to work together as a district, and 3 principals and 3 administrative teams working collaboratively. And we are showing them what we are preaching to our staffs in terms of collaboration. And that's going to be continuing on as we move forward. We want to continue to show our process growth along the way. We're going to continue to also celebrate the small victories and make sure that we celebrate all of the hard work, not only our students are doing, but the hard work that our staff and our faculty continue to do on a daily basis. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Mr. Cullinan, that was fantastic. I love the fact that everybody is working together, collaborative effort, teamwork is huge, and I love the goals. You key in on communication with families and students and families and how much the community means, and it does. And that's something that is so profound to me to hear. I think we're headed in the right direction. And I ask the same thing. You'll bring back data to us as you see it, when it's important to bring it to the board so that we can see what goals we're meeting and how we're doing. An outstanding job by both you and Mrs. Mitchell. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Cullinan?
Okay.
No one from Derek?
No, I thought it was a good plan, you know, because the students would have to be more, I think he has a way where students will expect, you know, to be in the school as a business aspect and learn. And at the same time, they, you know, they get rewarded for things that doing themselves throughout the school year. And then the teachers are all, you know, more involved, and the program is really set up pretty nice. I like it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you so much, both of you, for your hard work. Thank you, Mr. Cullinan. I appreciate it. I know times are tough, but I know how hard everybody's working, and we're going to get through this. Better days ahead. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to seeing how this plan moves forward in both, in all 3 buildings, and the progress that we make and how we work towards our goals towards 2021. Thank you very much. Okay, if we can move along. There is no citizens open forum here tonight. No one to address the board. No attorney's report. Consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like to remove from the consent agenda? With there being nothing, could I have a motion for the consent agenda, please?
I'll make the motion, Heather Dubard.
And a second, please.
I'll second, Carol Kropolsky.
I have a motion by Mrs. Dubard and a motion by Ms. Karopolsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Superintendent's report. Mrs. Morris?
Good evening, everyone. So the first item on our agenda, a little awkward, is the retirement of the superintendent. And I'm looking for your approval to accept my resignation for retirement purposes, effective of close of business on June 30th, 2021.
Could I have a motion, please? And regretfully, have a motion for this superintendent.
I'll make the motion.
Retirement.
Sorry, Renee.
Okay.
I'll make the motion, Heather Dubard.
And I'll second.
I'll second.
The motion.
Oh,
Sorry. I have a motion by Mrs. Dubard, a second by Mrs. Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Carried.
Okay, and our next is a retirement, and your approval is recommended for the resignation for retirement purposes for Doris North, as her position as a cleaner part-time assigned to Pine Hill. She's been with the district since October of 2016. Lovely.
Yeah, with appreciation and regret, we accept the retirement of Doris North. May I please have a motion
I motion.
and a second, please?
I'll second, Heather Dubard.
I have a motion by Mr. Warburton, a second by Mrs. Dubard. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? carried.
There are 2 notices of paid leave that do not require your action, but I did want you to know about it, and they're an extension of leaves on till about December 22nd for both of those family leaves.
Thank you.
We do need your approval for the following appointments. Dana Andrews, who is a regular substitute for a science teacher on leave, and then Jim Reichseidel for a probationary custodian retirement he's going to be filling.
Can we have a motion for both together, please?
I'll
all
make
right?
the motion, Heather Dubard.
And a second?
I'll second. Kevin Leary.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mrs. Jabard, a second by Mr. Leary for Dana Andrews and Jim Reichscheikel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
There is no action for this notice of recall. We are recalling Phil Enzer from the preferred eligibility list to fill the Adrian Moore resignation position.
Thank you.
And then
Board
we have
related.
policies on second read. Do you wish to adopt, modify, discard, or hold for additional discussion?
If there's no further questions on this, I'd like to adopt, please. Does anyone have anything that they need to discuss?
No.
Okay, could I have a motion then to adopt?
I'll make the motion, Heather
Vanessa
Dubard.
Schaefer.
Okay, in a second.
I'll second Heather Dubard.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mrs. Dubard. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, and our first addendum is the school comprehensive education plans. You heard the plans right from our principals. They did a phenomenal job. And now we need you to adopt those plans.
Could I please have a motion to adopt the comprehensive education plans, please?
I'll make the motion.
I
I'll
need a
second it. Tom Raska, I'll second it.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Warburton, a second by Mr. Raska. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
I just wanted to make a note because we did not hear from Mr. Zip this evening on the plan. That is because the high school is a school in good standing and was not required to do a plan this year. But wonderful work from Union East and the middle school. Thank you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kate for business related.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Do you see my screen share?
Yes.
Yes, got it. All right, thank you. So tonight I am pleased to be able to provide a budget development update as I have at the last several meetings. And tonight's update, we will focus on our district budget goal as we've indicated in the calendar. When we talk about budgeting, what we're really talking about is our plan, our spending plan. So first we plan our instructional and operational activities for the next year, and then we turn that plan into a financial document, and that financial document is the budget. Arriving at a district plan for the coming year takes all of us, takes all of our participation. Responsible planning takes all of us, and responsible budgeting takes all of us. At Cheektowaga Central, we have a lot of goals we're working to achieve, as you just heard many of them from Mr. Cullinan and Mrs. Mitchell, and we're working really hard to achieve those goals. And part of working hard to achieve our goals is making sure our spending plan is properly supporting those goals, and that takes all of us. All of us have a role to play in budgeting. You, the Board of Education, us, administration, teachers, support staff, parents, community stakeholders, we all play an important part in the responsible budgeting process. Our budget can only be successful if we all participate. We also think of budgeting as an art. We need to be accountable, responsible, and transparent. We're accountable to each other in our budget decisions. We're responsible for making budgeting decisions that help us achieve our goals. And we're transparent in the steps we take and the work we do to arrive at a balanced budget. So as the Board of Education, you have a role to play here in responsible budgeting as we look forward in the coming months, and we look forward to your participation. We'll be starting next month in January, working in more of the detail of the budget items, and we look forward to having those discussions when the time comes. I'll turn my attention now to our regular business agenda items. The first of which is financial reports. You'll find attached for your review and approval the budget status report, the revenue status report, and the AP check register. The budget status report, you'll notice we're still unencumbered in a lot of areas. We have a lot of unencumbered funds at this time of year. That is normal, and also we are underspending in some areas due to the temporary remote closure. We're also keeping an eye on our revenue status closely. As you're aware, the state is withholding at this time some of the state payments, and so we're keeping a careful eye on that revenue stream to make adjustments if we need to. So your approval is recommended for those financial reports.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, please, and a second for the budget status and the revenue status reports?
I'll make
I'll
a
make a
motion.
motion, Tom Raska.
And a second, I have a motion by Mr. Raska, a second by Mr. Warburton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you. The next item for your approval is budget transfers. The budget transfers for tonight are to fund service on buildings and grounds related systems and also to fund payroll transfer. You'll notice there's also a couple of transfers that are for your information only, as they're under the Board of Education approval threshold.
Right. Could I please have a motion for the budget transfers, please?
I'll make the motion, Heather Dubard.
And a
I'll
second?
second, Kevin Leary.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mrs. Jabard, a second by Mr. Leary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
Our next item is the vehicle purchases. We are recommending for approval the purchase of a Ford 10-passenger van and a Ford cab pickup truck. You'll note in the attachment a summary of the quotes on those items. We've identified the need to purchase these vehicles, one for use in buildings and grounds operations and one for use in student transportation related needs.
Okay. Could I have a motion, please, for the purchase of the Ford 10-passenger van and the pickup truck?
I'll make a motion, Tom Raska.
A second?
I'll second, Heather Dubard.
I have a motion by Mr. Raska, second by Mrs. Dubard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. The next three items concern our internal audit process. We're required every year to have an internal audit done, and the internal audit reviews our controls over financial activities mostly. And the first of these items is the engagement letter that allows us to contract with Tronconi Segar and Associates to perform this internal audit work.
Could I have a motion, please, for the engagement or for Cerconi to do the internal audit work, please? That's our engagement letter.
I'll make a motion, Tom Raska.
And a second?
I'll second, Carol Karpolsky.
I have a motion by Mr. Raska, second by Ms. Karpolsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
The next item is upon recommendation of the audit committee, your approval for the 2018-19 internal audit draft report is recommended. In the 18-19 audit cycle, they reviewed extra classroom funds, purchasing, and personnel and payroll. So the attached report is the draft they presented tonight that the audit committee is recommending for approval. And then just like we did with the financial statement audit, we will prepare a corrective action plan for your approval at the next meeting.
Can I have a motion, please, for this audit draft?
I'll make a motion, Derek Warburton.
In a second?
I'll second, Heather Dubard.
Motion by Mr. Warburton, a second by Mrs. Dubard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
The last internal audit related item is your approval of the 2019-20 internal audit plan. This plan again was presented tonight to the audit committee just before this meeting, and we are recommending to audit our cash management cycle, information technology cycle, and non-resident tuition billing cycle for this upcoming year.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, please, to approve the 2019-2020 audit plan, please?
I'll make the motion, Heather Dubard.
I'll second the motion, Mrs. Wilson. Motion by Mrs. Dubard, second by Mrs. Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
The next item is the Pine Hill lease agreement. As you are aware, we've been leasing the Pine Hill Education Center to Erie One BOCES. And this year we've made, both parties agreed to a small change in the contract terms in terms of payment, rather than be awarded in-kind slots for alternative education programs. The district will receive the cash revenue for the rental instead of tuition slots. And so that amended contract is here for your approval.
Okay. Could I have a motion for the Pine Hill lease agreement and the amended contract, please?
I'll make the motion,
I'll
Heather
make-
Dubard.
I'll second Carol Kropolski.
I have a motion by Mrs. Dubard, a second by Ms. Kropolski. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
The next item is the Cheektowaga Police Department Liaison Memorandum of Agreement. We have, this is an update to the Memorandum of Agreement that's been in place since 2016. This does include some updated language regarding the Supplemental School Liaison Initiative.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion, please, for the Cheektowaga Police Department Liaison Memorandum of Agreement?
I'll make a motion, Ed Schaefer.
I'll second Derek Wilbur.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mr. Warburton. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried.
The last item on the business agenda is the new New York State Records Retention Schedule. New York State published an updated records retention schedule we are required to adopt by January 1st. And once adopted, this retention schedule supersedes all previous schedules.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, please, for the New York State Records Retention Schedule?
I'll make a motion. Kevin Leary?
I'll
Thank you.
second Ed Schaefer.
I have a motion by Mr. Leary, a second by Mr. Schaefer. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you. I'll turn it back over, Mrs. Morris.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mrs. Wilson, we will need an executive session to discuss a specific employee.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, please, to go into executive session to discuss a specific employee?
I'll make a motion.
Ed Schaefer.
I need a second, please. I have a motion by Mr. Raska, a second by Mr. Schaefer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
And I believe we will leave this meeting and go into executive.
Okay.
Oh, another meeting.